This is exactly what the Miami Heat need. Based off a brand new report from the Zach Lowe Show, it seems like head coach Erik Spoelstra and key player Bam Adebayo are going into this up-and-coming NBA season a bit differently, a bit more aggressive, trying to have career years. I'm here to break down brand new information and why Heat Nation should be fired up for this NBA season for this Miami Heat organization. We'll break down all of that on this episode of Heat Digest, but first remember to scroll down and click that subscribe button to stay up to date on everything Miami Heat, as nearly 90% of you guys watching this video are not currently subscribed to the channel. We do appreciate the love and support, so thank you guys. But now let's get to it and break down exactly what we need in Miami. Now, we're first going to be referencing a quote from the Zach Lowe Show, something we cite all the time on this channel, as Zach Lowe is very good at what he does in covering the game of basketball. And in this episode that we're referencing, it's directly a quote from Michael Pena that was on Zach Lowe's show as a guest, as he goes on to point out a lot of good factors, including that head coach Erik Spoelstra has never won a Coach of the Year award. Now, before we get to the rest of the quotes and the Bam Adebayo stats that he points out, we have to acknowledge the fact that this is one true. Despite head coach Erik Spoelstra's career up to this point with this Miami Heat organization, from the time he's worked his way up from a video coordinator up until the point of where he is now as one of the best head coaches to ever participate and be a head coach on the professional level in the NBA, he is yet to win an NBA Coach of the Year award, which seems just impossible. Now, he has a few second and third place finishes, as well as finishing in the top half of the league for really every single year that he's been eligible to win this award. But again, he has never actually won it. This could be the year, like pointed out by Michael Pena, that Erik Spoelstra goes on and actually wins this. The actual quote from Pena is as follows. Head quote, Erik Spoelstra has never won Coach of the Year famously. This is the type of season that can totally be in the cards for him. I'm betting on Bam Adebayo to bounce back from his least efficient, most disappointing offensive season. Career low 27% of his shots were at the rim. 3 years ago, that was at 50%. And that's the end of the quote. And to elaborate on this more, he's dead on accurate. Now, we already mentioned the Erik Spoelstra stuff and how he hasn't won a Coach of the Year, which just doesn't seem real. But again, Erik Spoelstra is going to be in the running year after year after year, regardless of the talent he has available to him, because schematically, he is always going to put his best foot forward. He's always going to try to match the situational matchup as best as he possibly can and give the Miami Heat organization that he is coaching the best chance to win. Now, whether or not he can go out there and win an NBA title this year with the currently constructed roster is to be determined. But I'm here to tell you, this Miami Heat team is certainly better than all of the sportsbooks are giving them credit for. Currently on Hard Rock Sportsbook, their over-under on total wins this season as a franchise is 37.5. Now, if that seems disrespectfully low, you're 100% right, because it is. If you look at other teams, specifically teams like the Orlando Magic and the Atlanta Hawks, two teams that are rivals in the Southeast Division against this Miami Heat team in specific, their over-unders are 46.5 for the Atlanta Hawks, who did get better this season, but have been considered the little brother over the last handful of years in comparison to this Heat team. And then obviously the Orlando Magic, who were better than this Heat team, at least on paper last year in wins and losses. But their over-under is 51.5. There's a drastic difference from Miami and these two teams that are going to be real rivals and real competitors to this Heat organization once this season actually starts. And if head coach Erik Spoelstra, as well as key players like Bam Adebayo specifically, can shape up in comparison to what we saw last year, not only do I think the Miami Heat will succeed all expectations that are currently being put on them in the sense of the 37.5 wins, but also head coach Erik Spoelstra could possibly win his first Coach of the Year, and Bam Adebayo could be the focal point of that, as he could have a breakout season for this Miami Heat organization, which is desperately going to be needed. Now, year after year, Bam Adebayo has simply gotten better up until last season. Now, you can make the argument it's because he just got paid. He took that extension last offseason, and he got comfortable. Now, that is a clear argument. We see it happen year after year, regardless of the organization, regardless of the sport in which the athlete is participating in and playing. Once they get paid, it seems like they really take the back seat, and they don't try to go out there and play like they were prior, because they've already been taken care of, and they don't have to go out there and work to prove their worth, because, again, they already have the number they're looking for. They got paid. And for Bam Adebayo, I'm not saying that's the exact reason we saw the regression last year, but it could definitely be a piece of it. I'm hoping it doesn't stay consistent in that sense. I hope next season, this up-and-coming NBA season, we see a rejuvenated Bam Adebayo, someone that is a focal point to this Miami Heat team, not only offensively, but obviously as the defensive end, on the defensive end as well, next to someone like Kel'el Ware that's going to take some pressure off of Bam, as he's going to be in the starting lineup, playing more minutes, having more reps, and again, he's going to be making everyone's life easier. But with that being said, Bam has to not take nights off. He cannot be a 12 to 16 point per game guy. He needs to be that 18 to 22 to 24 point per game guy, one of the leaders on the offensive end, if not the clear-cut leader for this Miami Heat team on the offensive end, in order to really earn some of that respect back and really some of just, not the aura, but just the pedigree in which everyone was holding him to. As not only was he a top 8 to top 6 defensive player of the year in the sense of award where he was landing in that award race, but also being reliable, being consistent on the offensive end, not putting all the pressure on these young guys like Jaquez, like a newly introduced Andrew Wiggins, if we're speaking about last year. Now Norman Powell will be there as well. Tyler Hero, as we all know, last year converted himself from more of a scoring two-guard to a facilitating point guard with the ability to score at will, which really unlocked this Heat team to a certain degree, but without Bam Adebayo there as really the Robin to his Batman, or even vice versa, being the Batman to a Tyler Hero who would be the Robin, it is not going to work. But if Bam can just simply answer the call and get back to those numbers we were hoping to see, or at least parts of what we saw in years prior, with that 18 to 19 to 20 points per game, while grabbing 8 to 10 rebounds per game, while also being a monster on the defensive end, Bam Adebayo not only could be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, but could spurt Erik Spoelstra to possibly winning a Coach of the Year and propelling this Heat team over 37.5 wins, exceeding all expectations, and being one of the middle-ish teams to one of the top half teams in the Eastern Conference, which again, for another consecutive year, is being overlooked in comparison to the Western Conference. I think this is all shaping out really well for this Miami Heat team. Not only head coach Erik Spoelstra is going to have a great chance to not only exceed expectations with this current roster and win more than 37.5 games, obviously 38 or more games, but he's going to allow Bam Adebayo to fully be unlocked, move back to the power forward position, put some pressure on Kel'el Ware while also taking some pressure off of Bam and Tyler and these other big-name stars while playing as a group, playing as a real team, allowing it to be a team effort night in and night out unless someone is just scorched earth and cannot miss. If that's the case, obviously feed the hot hand, but hopefully the hot hand is Bam Adebayo time and time again. Based off this depth chart, the Miami Heat have the roster. They have it constructed to the point where they can be a 4, a 5, or 6 seed in the Eastern Conference and possibly even one of the top teams in their division along the lines of an Orlando Magic's team or possibly the Atlanta Hawks, who both have gotten better like we mentioned earlier in this video. I think this is going to be a very intriguing year, not only for the player personnel on the Heat organization, but specifically head coach Erik Spoelstra, with someone like Pat Riley sitting above him and wanting to win a championship now before he rides out into the sunset. Look for pressure to be pushed on the Erik Spoelstra a little bit more than really we're fully accustomed to, more than we've really seen in the past, since really in the big 3 days where they simply had to win because they had the best players in the world on their roster with a Miami Heat jersey on. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be amplified to that point, but don't be surprised if there is a large microscope on this Miami Heat team going into the season with the roster they currently have constructed and obviously the front office that they have with head coach Erik Spoelstra at the helm of everything. Look for Erik Spoelstra to not only make a push for a great season overall, but possibly a Coach of the Year award at the end of it, with Bam Adebayo being the focal point of this Miami Heat organization. Let me know your overall expectations, not only for this Heat team in general. Is 37.5 way too low? The Miami Heat last year, with everything that was going on, ended up winning 37 games on the nose. So I feel like that's really where this number's coming from, because in my opinion, this Heat team as currently constructed is better than the one they did have last year. So my opinion, over. Without a doubt, over for this Miami Heat team. That's not just me being hopeful and optimistic that they will go out there and play good basketball, but also just the level of confidence I do have in this team with head coach Erik Spoelstra at the helm of things. I think they will be competitive, and I think it could result in a major year for this organization. Not only player-wise, but again, for head coach Erik Spoelstra, as he could possibly win his first Coach of the Year award. Let me know down below what you guys think about this, and I will see you guys on the next episode of Heat Digest.